Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fogdog and Basten. It's been a few weeks since we've had an episode with just the two of us on here. Obviously, we've had our man Derek Rubis and our man Kevin Kelly on the podcast the last couple of episodes. Good to kind of get back and just kind of chat training, racing, what we've been up to. It's been a few weeks. How you been going, Basten?
I've been going really good. Really well. Is that right?
Yeah,
I don't really know. Same thing, but either way, since our last episode together, really, we last discussed Milrose games, which seems like forever
a
ago
lifetime
now.
ago. Yeah.
But, so after that, we kind of just want to do a bit of a training block, and then we were preparing for you racing at the Iowa State 3K and me racing at Tyson Invitational. So tell us about the workout we did right beforehand.
Yeah. So obviously kind of coming off Milrose, which was pretty disappointing, obviously, for anyone who doesn't know. I got tripped, fell down, ran 407. We went into a bit of a training block, kind of went back to the basics, got a little bit more mileage in, and I was preparing to run a 3K. So going into this 3K, Basten, obviously you've kind of got that natural speed. You were going to be racing a mile at the Tyson Invitational in Arkansas. So the workout we did the week of my 3K and the week of your mile at Tyson, we did 2x1K, 800, 3x400, and 2x200. And it was really good. So I didn't really know what to expect for a 3K. So the 2x1Ks that we did, we kind of went out pretty hard and we ran 236 and 235. And for me, that felt pretty good. It was kind of like quick, but reasonably relaxed. And then the 800, 3x400 and 2x200, we just kind of picked it up a bit. Obviously, as stuff gets quicker, I always get dropped by this man. But how did you find that? Kind of something slightly longer.
That's not exactly my forte. I was really, really struggling during those Ks just to hold on. I did, but I feel like I had to work a lot harder to hold on than you did, which is kind of just the way we're built, the way we run. But I hung in there, and then the speed stuff like always seems to go pretty well. So, but either way, I feel like that translated really well for you. That was a good workout going into Iowa State 3K, and tell us about how that went.
Yeah. So, after that workout, I really thought I was in pretty good shape for a 3K. I hadn't raced a 3K for literally pretty much a year. The last 3K I ran was at our indoor conference meet in early March or late February 2021. I pretty much soloed 806 on a flat 200 track. So that workout that we just mentioned kind of gave me a reasonable amount of confidence that I was in much, much better shape than 806. I didn't know for sure, but just feeling good in a workout like that, I felt confident that I could run something pretty quick. The Iowa State Classic came around, 40-minute drive up the road, just an ideal location for a meet. It's a track that we know pretty well. And the field was really pretty strong. So there was a pacemaker in there, Jordan Mann. He's, I believe, a pro runner. And the plan was to go through 2K in 5:12, which is 7:48 3K pace. 236 per K, about 410 maybe per mile, 411, maybe 412, something like that. Actually about 410. Yeah. And anyway, Wesley Kiptu and Sam Gilman were in there as well. Great runners. Also Alec Baston, the man everyone believes is brothers with this man right here. Anyway, the pacer did a really good job. I think I was 5:13 or 5:14 through 2K. I ended up trying to hang in there. It felt like a very, very long way. But I ran 7:51:01 to come third. I was there all the way. I tucked in third behind the pacemaker, obviously. So fourth behind the pacemaker, third overall. And one thing that kind of really shocked me with the 3K I kind of expected it to feel really pretty comfy early on. And literally 2 laps in on a 300 track. So we were like 600 in. I felt like I was racing a mile. Like it was such a shock, just unbelievable. So yeah, it felt like a pretty long way, and it felt very, very fast the whole way. Like I was just really kind of grinding to like hang in there. And I did. I held right onto the front boys for the whole race until the last 200, and then I was pretty cooked come the last kind of 200. And Sam Gilman took the win in 7:47 high, Kip 2 around 7:48 high, and I came kind of trailing through in 7:51, which I was pretty happy with. But I mean, the NCAA this year is unreal, and 7:51, you don't even get a look in for NCAAs anymore.
Yeah, it's good enough to rank you 185th in the nation.
No, that's harsh.
I think it's like 30 something.
Right?
Right?
I think it's 35th, or it was the last time I checked.
Okay. Either way, that's absolutely nuts. But yeah, I mean, that's the first competitive 3K that you've run in what, a year and a half. And like,
yeah.
And really that 3K that you ran at conference, you were paced by someone paced for the first like K and a half. And then you just dropped out.
Jack Zettel. Yeah.
You ran like half the race alone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's gotta be the first like ever like race where you've been in a 3K with guys that are as good or better than you.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Pretty much in 2019. So 3 years ago now, I ran a 3K in Australia. And I ran 8:16, which was a huge PB PR at the time, down from like 8:38. So I've gone from 8:38 to 8:16. I didn't actually win that race. So that was like the last kind of proper competitive 3K I've been in. 8:16, and then obviously 8:06, and now 7:51. I do feel like if I, really committed to running the 3K, there would be a bit more there, but
for sure.
Just like,
yeah,
it's a tough event. And while I've still kind of got the legs kind of for the mile, I want to kind of try and make the most of that speed. But yeah, it was a good experience. I enjoyed running it. And what's mad is like 7:51, as I said, I was like pretty happy with that time. I thought it was like pretty solid. There, I don't think would have been a year really ever in the NCAA where 7:51 wouldn't qualify for nationals.
It's absolutely crazy. It's seriously crazy. And the 3K before a week ago, I think people were saying the 3K was the weakest event in all the distance events.
Yeah, it's mad.
And the weakest event in all the distance events, you have to run 7:45.
5, probably 7:45 now.
It's so nuts. Like, and you can only assume that with the entire nation racing at conference this weekend, someone's gonna break that.
Yeah,
Time's gonna go down even more. So really, it's
scary.
It's the nationals field this year for indoor is going to be absolutely ridiculous in every single event, and nobody's judging anybody for making it or not making it. But I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
This is nuts.
Yeah. So speaking of kind of nationals and qualifying, a few weeks ago, last time we were on here, actually literally the last episode with Kev Kelly, we kind of were discussing the mile and talking about the NCAA. And since that podcast episode, it's got a whole lot more ridiculous in the NCAA. I, at the time of that last episode, still felt like I was in a pretty good spot to qualify, 356.6.
You were 10th in the nation.
Yeah. I was pretty locked in. And Basten had run 358.88 at the time. And it kind of felt like, you needed to really pull one out, which is why on the weekend of the Iowa State Classic, when I ran that 3K, you went down to Arkansas kind of in the hope of running something quick, improving on your mile time, and getting a qualifier. Fill us in. How did it go?
Well, I did just that. I ran so fast. No. It obviously didn't go my way if you've seen the results, but it really just kind of like what happened to you this last weekend.
Yeah.
I felt like I was the only one in the race that was going for a time. And so I got tucked in right behind, I tucked in right behind Dais Malabana, who was supposed to tuck in right behind the pacer. didn't really happen. But
Yeah.
anyway, there was a big gap there, and I felt like I had to make up that gap. So about a K into the race, I literally passed Dais and basically full out sprinted to try to catch the pacer. And I did, but so did everybody else then that sat on me and then all outkicked me. So I mean, tactically I ran the race like an idiot if I was going for the win, but I wasn't really going for the win. I was going for the time.
Exactly.
And it just didn't work out. And then with about 200 to 400 left, I mean, I could have just had pride and ran it in and probably still ran like 4 minutes or 4:01 or something.
Yeah.
But I'm not that kind of guy. I threw in the towel, absolutely jogged, and then pouted afterwards and ran 4:06.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
but that's just what happens. Like I didn't have a good day, and I knew that potentially Fogg and I were racing the next weekend. So I was like, what's the point of going all out here when there's no point really to go all out?
Exactly.
So
we were watching that live from Drake. Obviously, you know, we didn't get to go down and watch in person, but when we saw the gap kind of open up between the pacemaker and Dais, we kind of knew that it wasn't really going to plan. And I think you ended up being, or even the pacer ended up being like 2:31 through 1,009. You were probably even a little bit off that because of the gap. And we just knew from that point on, especially then when you had to, you know, kind of take it and really push to try and make up that lost time, essentially, we knew that it wasn't really going to be an ideal day. And I think a few of the guys in there, like I think Dais ended up breaking 4. I think he ran 3:59 high. And he's someone who I feel like could run a fair bit quicker. Like he ran 3:39 outdoors last year. But it kind of just had that vibe of like a couple of guys in there were over the moon to break 4, which is, you know, it's a big milestone. Like I think he was really happy to break 4, but it wasn't the race you needed for, you know, running a national qualifier.
Nope, it wasn't. And I think I was a little disappointed about that partially, but I was also disappointed in the fact that I thought going into the season, after the way I ran at the end of outdoor, I would be able to just show up and the field wouldn't matter. The race wouldn't matter. I thought I could just show up in any field and jog a 3:56. And clearly I think that's been like a slap in the face. Like I'm not as good as I thought I was. I need the right race in order to do that. And I think that's kind of been a slap in the face to both of us. I think both of us thought going into this indoor season that we would be the whole year, we'd be living top 5 in the national rankings. And like, we'd be not having to worry about any of this crap.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just shows how crazy the NCAA is and how fast life can ground you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But in saying that, obviously, you know, after that race, I really did think potentially for you, it was kind of, you know, it wasn't going to all come together. And maybe indoor nationals wasn't meant to be for you. And actually for me, after that weekend, I'd moved down to, I think 21st in the NCAA.
You went from 10 to 18
in one race
from Friday to Saturday. And then from Saturday to Sunday, you went from 18 to 21.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in one weekend where you thought you were solidified in, raced the 3K for fun, really, to try to qualify in the second event.
Yeah.
And then you looked back and realized, oh, I'm not in anything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny actually, because like I finished that 3K and ran my 7:51, and Jay came over to me. He was like, like, well done. That's pretty decent. And then he just looked at his phone and was like, oh my God, like, oh no. And I pretty much knew straight away what he was looking at, because I knew that the Music City race, the mile, was happening in Tennessee at pretty much the exact same time as my 3K. So I knew that it wasn't going to be good news. And 8 guys from that race ran quicker than my 3:56.6. I think it is probably the deepest mile race in history. You know, Mario Garcia Romo, he won it in 3:53. Elliot Kipsang was in there. A load of the Ole Miss boys, John Davis from Illinois,
who's 48 years old, by the way.
Yeah, he's been in the NCAA. pretty scary number of years, I think. But so I moved down to 21st, and with that came the opportunity that I didn't want to have to take, but I then kind of felt like I had to take. And obviously so did you, to go down to Arkansas where you'd been the week prior, and race another mile in the hopes of running something quick. So down we went, me, you, Jay, our coach. We drove down on the Thursday, drove through a bit of a snowstorm, bit of a blizzard. There were a few kind of hair-raising moments along that journey, but we survived.
Jay's an interesting driver, to say the least.
Yeah. There was one pretty scary point in particular. But we made it. And that point wasn't Jay's fault, I don't think, but it was pretty weird. And yeah, we raced this mile. So do you want to kind of talk a bit about your mindset going in?
Coming off a big slap in the face the week prior, obviously, like just the way I just explained it. I was kind of just going in thinking, all right, I just want something positive. Like, I'm sick of running these races and thinking, man, that sucked. Or like that. It's honestly just embarrassing to go to races and get dead last. Like, it's embarrassing for everyone. It's especially embarrassing when you're in the NCAA, especially at an Arkansas meet where there's actually fans in attendance. So yeah, I just wanted to have something positive, and I knew the field was great. Like going into the field with a guy like Fogg, a guy like Stallings, a guy like that, Abraham.
Abdurazak.
Yeah.
Ibrahim, I think,
from New Mexico. So like going in and looking at the field, I'm like, man, this is a great field. If I can just. So then mentally, I was just pretending like it was a nationals race, like going in with the mindset of, okay, like I'm just going to run in the back like I did all throughout regionals and all throughout nationals. And then I hope that with a lap to go, I have it. And that was kind of just like my mindset going in. It almost helped keep me grounded and like help me not mentally panic, because I was in a state where I could mentally panic based on how I was racing lately.
Yeah.
But you went in with a different mindset.
Yeah.
You went in with different goals, and like you wanted to run the race differently than I did because we're different runners. So
exactly.
Explain how you were going in.
Yeah. So obviously pretty strong field. It didn't really compare to that meet in Music City, like where, 6 guys or something ran under 3:56, but it was a very strong field, and there was going to be a pacemaker from New Mexico. The plan was to go through 1,009 in 2:27. So that would kind of set it up pretty perfectly for a very quick race. And I said to the boys, like before the race, I spoke to, Zach Stallings, obviously I spoke to Basten, and then a couple of the other guys who were in there. And I said, like, I'm happy to be the one who like tucks in behind the pacemaker. And whenever he drops out, when he goes, I'm going to try and, put my foot down and really push it on to try and run something quick. Obviously, we were all there to run fast. And in a lot of races, like last year when I ended up qualifying for nationals, like I ran 3:59 and 3:59, and I had to do quite a lot of front running in both of them. And so I was more than happy to take it on like that. So anyway, it came to it. We ended up getting out. It worked out perfectly. The pacer got out pretty nicely. I tucked him right behind him. So it worked out perfectly in terms of like the way, the field strung out and where I was positioned, but we were a little bit slow pretty much straight away. I think we were good through 400, and then it kind of slowed down a bit.
Genuinely, after the first lap of the race, we like made a conscious effort to slow down.
Yeah.
And like I was in the back, so like it was a little bit delayed. Like,
yeah.
Because how when moves are made, it's a little bit delayed as you go back into the pack. But there was a serious point where I almost tripped on the guy in front of me.
Really?
Because we had to slow down such a drastic amount.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the race.
Yeah, it's weird because like I spoke to the pacer, Matt Larkin, I think he's called, from New Mexico. Really good runner, 149, 800 runner. And I think he's a freshman. I think he is. So he's a great runner. And I spoke to him quite a bit before the race and said, get out hard, string it out, because the worst thing that can happen is that, the pacer doesn't go out hard enough and it ends up as a big bunch. And people can get tripped, like what happened at Melrose. So, PTSD from that. So anyway, I spoke to him quite a bit before the race and said, just get out hard, string it out, settle in. And he said, yeah, I'll run kind of 58s, like 29 low per 200, basically. And so, that was the plan. And anyway, the race got going. I ended up being 229.9 through 1,009. He then stepped out to the side. I took it on and I really tried to push it on. I really wanted to, make it quick, especially after being a little bit slow through that 1,009 mark. When I ran 356 at Iowa State, I was 227.7 through 1,009. I actually looked back at the splits the other day. So I was 2.2 seconds slower than that. So I knew that I had kind of a lot of ground to make up. So I pushed it on, really went for it. And then, with a lap to go, I was pretty tired by that point. And Basten came through. He did what he's capable of. He did what he does and came through, took the win, 356.1. I ran 357.24 for third. Joe Wascombe from Washington came through for second in, I think, 356.4. So talk us through it. Like it was an incredible run. And as I said in the video, we made a pretty cool video that's on my YouTube channel. If anyone's going to beat me, I was pretty glad to see it was this guy in 356.1. Pretty much, he's a lock for nationals now. So
we'll see, honestly. You never know. But
who knows?
We thought you were a lock. So I'm just going to pretend like it's a 50-50 so that no matter what, I'm not too angry about it, whatever happens. But I'm kind of going to answer like what was going through my head throughout that race with some questions here. I just got one really long question that's divided into a bunch of questions from somebody in the last video. So I thought I'll talk about that. The first question is, what is going through your head in a race like that when you're last for 12 or 1,300 meters? Honestly, nothing. Literally nothing. Like I'm kind of just running in the back and staring at the guy in front of me. Like the one thing I'm consciously thinking about when I'm in that spot is, are there gaps forming? Because I'm looking up in the field, and if there's a gap forming, I don't want to be caught in the back of that gap. Because if a move is made and I'm not part of it, then I'm sacrificing my race. And it doesn't matter if you have a kick at that point because you're not there. You're not there. So that, which leads into the second question. At about 12, you move from last to next to last. And the why I made that move was because I could feel that Princeton guy that was in second to last falling off.
And bear in mind, this Princeton guy, Ed Trippers, he's actually an Olympian from Australia. So
is he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Steeplechase. But so you move up, you feel he's dropping off.
I just like, I was looking in front, and it was kind of at the point where you and the leaders were starting your turn, and I was like still on the straight in the backstretch. I could see him falling off a tiny bit. And I was like, this guy can't be the reason why I don't run the race I want to race. So I passed him, but I kind of felt like that guy that was still in front of him, who was actually another Princeton guy, he was still hanging on well. So I waited because I only had time to pass the one guy, because then we were going into the bend. You want to tuck in. For all runners that race, you don't really want to pass on a curve. You're taking more steps and you're wasting your energy. So that was the logic there. And then the third question was, not that many people at that level in a sub 4 mile can go from last to first in the last 200, but you've done it several times. Maybe Hawk or Tier and a few others are capable, but even they choose not to. If you're hanging on to a pack and there are no gaps, is the same in last as is in third and fifth, or what is it about last that that is more comfortable to you than third or fourth? And honestly, like, the answer to this question kind of sounds stupid, but the difference in that like 0.7 seconds, that like 0.8 seconds between what your laps were and what my laps were is everything to me.
Yeah.
When we're racing at Iowa State, and like for him to excel, like he talked about, he needs a race to be 227 through the K, at least in a time trial sense of race, so that he doesn't have to close that hard. I'm the exact opposite. Yeah. I need a race to be, I need to be 230 through K so that I can close hard.
Yeah.
And so if I'm doing what Fogg does and I'm tucking behind that pacer, not only is my first lap harder, which takes out some of my kick, but then I'm working harder throughout the race. And then I'm not going to have the same amount of energy left at the end. So really, even though it doesn't seem like it's a lot of time, it's only like a second to a half of a second. That's everything to a guy like me. That's everything. Yeah. And like the difference between Tier and Hawker and a guy like me is I don't have quite the same strength as they do. They're just so strong to the point where they can lead and still hammer that kick. I thought I was going to have that strength going into this year. I don't. So that's something that I've had to adapt to on the fly. And that's something that I realized after Iowa State is that I can't run the same style of race that they can. I have to be back a little further than they have to be. Yeah. Yeah. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it means that I'm not as good as them, obviously, which pretty much no one is. So it's just something that hopefully as I get older, it develops. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an interesting one. And shout out to Kevin Morrison for all the questions. Kevin's a pretty loyal viewer, I think. And we met him actually when Basten first broke 4 at the Iowa State meet back in December. But the thing about being in last and being so comfortable with it in comparison to like being in 3rd or 4th, you know, because you'd still be a little bit off that front kind of pace. That's something we talked about, and you kind of talked about it with me after the race, and you were saying like you just felt like you were jogging out there. Yeah. And I was at the front and I felt like I was getting absolutely hammered, just like trying to make it really quick. Yeah. And you just said you felt like you were just cruising along. I guess one of the things as well is if you're in last, you know that no one's behind you, you know, potentially clipping your heels or like you just know you've got nothing to worry about. The only thing you are focused on is what's going on in front of you. So yeah, definitely a few interesting questions. But yeah, it worked out pretty well for you. And I think you should definitely be pretty locked in for nationals. That put you in 16th? Yeah, I'm still in 16th today. We will see, but right now I think my odds are pretty good. Yeah, for sure. I think I'm pretty confident, you know, being at number 16 now, you're gonna stay in, especially with scratches. But yeah, conference this weekend, all over the country, a few strong conferences. So I think obviously you're in a good spot, but who knows what's going on with the NCAA right now. Yeah, I should be in. Just like one more thing to note about that Arkansas race, like being in the back is a lot even different than I'd say being in second last, because I can see everything. Mm-hmm. Like what you mentioned, like I have like knowledge of what's going on in the entire field when nobody really knows what's happening behind them. So I'm seeing like where all the moves are being made, where all the, like, in my opinion, where all the energy is being wasted. And like, I know that, and this will be the same strategy that I have if I make nationals, we'll see. But is I'm really just going to watch and hope that people are making moves constantly throughout the race. And that's kind of honestly what you did last year at nationals when you made the final. Yeah. You were in the back early. I was right at the back, actually. And you had a lot of success running the race the way I like to run. Yeah. So it's a good point. And on a national level as well. Yep. I need to channel my inner Basten more often. So maybe that's just like a really slept on strategy for. It is true. National style racing. Cause that was like what I wanted to mention. Like you did the exact same thing in nationals and it worked for you. That is a really good point. Cause I think I'll have to go back and rewatch my national prelim from indoor last year. But I think 2 laps in, I was dead last. I was right at the back and I was like chilling there. I remember thinking like, this is not a good spot to be in, but like
I feel all right. And every lap, Jay was just like, just chill, because I could hear him like on the sidelines, obviously. And that was not part of my plan at all. Like, I wanted to get out. I knew that I was going to have to be in that top 4 to get through to the final. And so I kind of felt like I should be in that top 3, 4, 5 the whole race. But I was in 8th, dead last early on. I definitely moved up a little bit earlier than, someone like you would, Basten, but I don't have that closing speed quite. So for me, it kind of is like, I can be at the back in a race like that, but I have to move up and kind of wind it up a little bit earlier, which is what ended up happening. I think I ran 153 for the last 800 that day. So it kind of like early on, you can be at the back, you can chill, you can just tuck in and then work your way up. And for me, it kind of has to, the strategy, instead of leaving it to, the last 400 or 200 and kicking incredibly well and running, closing so hard that I can overtake pretty much everyone in the last lap or last 2 laps, I have to move up a little bit earlier and kind of wind it up. That's an interesting point.
It is interesting to look at like that race in particular too. I rewatched that race, and man, for some really, really good runners, I just don't understand what some of them were doing.
Yeah.
Like there was a Furman guy. I don't know his name. And sorry, Furman guy, if you're watching this.
Aaron Weir or Cameron Ponder. I can't remember which one was in my heat.
But that was one of the dumbest tactical races I've ever seen someone run.
Yeah.
Like there were multiple times where he moves literally from last to like 3rd. And then just that move was useless because then he moves right back into like 7th. And I'm like, dude, think about all the energy you just wasted. Like, the announcer probably said your name, but
it's all worth it for that. It's all worth it for that. But it is a really good point.
It's really interesting to look back at that because like, I know a lot of people were saying on his YouTube channel, like, that's like the way you're meant to race. That's the way you're meant to race. Like, not all of us have one specific way we can race. We can all race a lot of different ways depending on the day. Obviously, like my strategy, like what I've been doing is what works best for me. But he's a lot more of a, I would say, complete athlete than me. I mean, he's older and he's got more experience. So like he's able to do things that like I can't do. And he's able to like run a lot of different styles of racing that I'm still trying to develop, I'd say. Yeah. So like even my strategy, he's done it before and he's executed it. So, I mean,
I can't close in 26.9 yet. Yeah, maybe one day, but just quickly as well for the Arkansas race. Obviously, for me, like running 3:57.24, it was like it's still a really, really solid run. But it was like, obviously a little bit bittersweet because we went there to run fast. Obviously, Basten got his qualifier. Well, hopefully, like pretty locked in for nationals. For me, it's like all I got from that was bumped down 2 spots by Basten and Joe Wascombe from Washington kind of coming in and running quicker than me. So it's the way it goes. That's what you get with running sometimes. So, moving on from that, obviously the NCAA is pretty hectic right now, as we've kind of mentioned 1,000 times, but we have conference coming up this Sunday, Monday, in Chicago on a banked 200 track. It's actually the track where Cole, Hocker, and Coupeteer just around 350 for the mile. Historically, our conference meet has been on a flat 200 track in Iowa, a pretty all right facility, but pretty bad track for running fast. So anyway, obviously I am now kind of in a pretty not ideal spot for nationals. So I was in class yesterday and I got a text from the man here, Basten, little stats man. Do you want to kind of talk through essentially what you were looking at? Basically, kind of trying to work out what I need to go in my favor in order for me to qualify for nationals indoor.
Yeah, man. I looked up basically. So what I did was I looked at the top 100 results on TFRS, and then I divided those top 100 athletes into every single conference that they're in. And so I wrote down all the conferences of the top 100 athletes because those are the relevant conferences when you're looking at times. And so you obviously have all the Power 5, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, Pac-12, ACC, and then the Ivy League, the Mountain West, the Big Sky, and the Big East Conference. And when I divided this, I then wrote down a list of athletes who have run in between 356.6 and 4 minutes flat in the mile, because Fogg is around 356.6. And
so essentially, just quickly, that's kind of like the athletes who are very quick. They're not in front of me right now, but they would have potential to overtake me, kind of thing, in their conference meets.
These are the athletes that we're worried about.
Essentially,
like the athletes that are concerning. And then of those athletes, I then subtracted the athletes that have already qualified in other events, like the 800, the 5K, or the 3K. And then there's a total of every single conference here of the athletes that I think are relevant. And surprisingly, the conference who we are most worried about using these statistics is the Big East, which is not a Power 5 conference, but they have schools like Villanova,
Georgetown.
Yeah. Or no, not Harvard. Harvard's Ivy League, obviously, but
yeah.
Villanova, Georgetown, a lot of high quality schools, a lot of milers that happen to be in between 356.6 and 4 flat. There are also a bunch of conferences. By the way, the Big East would have 7 runners that are in between 356.6 and 4 minutes that aren't in any other events. So 7 athletes who potentially could do it. But you also got to think if they've had the whole season to do it and they haven't done it yet. So
it's not super likely.
Yeah. So like I would say 95% of these runners on here probably just aren't capable.
Yeah.
But there are always some runners like me who ran 358 high that happened to pop off one day. So you never
Same
really
with the
know.
Washington guy. Literally. Yeah. I remember the Washington guy who obviously beat me, lost to you. He ran 356.4 something. He was a 359 mid guy before Arkansas. I think he'd broken 4 once the week before, 359 mid, maybe 359 high. And he just, had an incredible race and ran 356. So looking at kind of that list of potential people to be worried about, or like numbers of people to be worried about, it's like probably there's not a whole lot to worry about in those numbers, but it can happen.
Yep. And I would think in the really every Power 5 conference like could have potential to go fast at nationals, but really most of these guys have already got the times
at conference.
And most of them don't really want to have to work that hard if they don't really have to.
No,
because nationals is only 2 weeks after conference. And every single time you have an all out effort, it affects your legs a little bit going on and on throughout the season. So these guys, if they can, they're not going to go all out. But I would say besides these Power 5 conferences, the two conferences results that we're definitely going to be looking at are the Big East and the Ivy Leagues. And even the Pac-12 just really doesn't have any athletes that even look like they have potential to break that spot. So anyway, there are like 6 relevant conferences in our words that we're going to be looking at. We'll see what happens. And then we also devised a list of all the athletes that are currently above you. And whether or not we think they're going to scratch or do it. Man, if you're one of my teachers, I am so sorry.
You must have spent all day doing this. Well, all class at least.
Yeah.
Because when I saw it come through, I kind of like quickly checked my phone in class and was like, wow, you've put in the work for this. Just quickly as well, for anyone who doesn't quite understand how it works. So indoor nationals, only 16 qualify. So there's obviously the rankings, and if you're in the top 16, you're guaranteed. But like people can scratch and run different events. So for example, someone might have qualified in the mile and the 3K, and they might see themselves as a far better 3K runner. So they choose to run that. If you're watching this, Yared Nagus, Morgan Beadlescombe, anyone else, probably choose a 3K.
Scratch.
So essentially, I'm now ranked 23rd. I need 7 guys to scratch in front of me, and I would qualify. Last year, I was ranked 25th. 10 guys ahead of me scratched, and I went internationals ranked number 15 of 16. Ended up finishing 4th. So there's a lot that I need to go my way for this to happen, but
yeah,
continue.
So a lot indeed. So I devised a list of the athletes in the top 23 because you're 23rd.
Yeah.
So of those athletes in the top 22, there are 14 of those 22 that have not qualified in any other event. So, i.e. 14 runners who, if they don't do it, they would be stupid.
Yeah.
And I didn't include Kieran Lum in this list because people are talking about, oh, he's injured. I don't know whether or not he's injured, but he hasn't raced since early January.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of rumors going around that he's injured. So I'm just kind of like putting him in his own injured category.
Yeah.
But there's 14 athletes that I'm saying are pretty much locks to compete.
Yeah.
And there might be one or two guys that don't do it for a DMR, but I don't understand that logic at all, honestly.
No. Yeah.
But whatever. And then there are 2 athletes in the top 23 that I am 100% certain they're scratching because they're either just way better at something else or basically they're way better at something else. And that's Nico Young and Abdi Hamid Nur. There's no way they don't do the 5K.
I have to agree. Abdi Hamid Nur, he's run 740 as well for the 3K. So yeah.
Either way, their best events are certainly not the mile.
Yeah.
And then anyway, I have Kieran Lum in his own category. And then this is the most important category. There are 5 other guys outside of this top 14. And now, assuming all 14 of these guys do the mile, you would need 4 of these 5 to scratch.
Yeah.
And these 5 athletes I'm considering in maybe territory because they've qualified in the mile and they've qualified in other events. And they're honestly about the same in everything. Like they're either really good milers or really good 3K, 5K guys, or they're like towards the bottom of the top 16 in one and towards the bottom of the top 16 in another event.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just don't really know. And that is Morgan Beadlescombe and Yard Nagoose scratch. Brian Fay, who has been insane from Washington.
Yeah,
lately.
he's running
and
very
then
well.
Colton Johnson, right?
Yeah.
He's
Injury talks, injury rumors going around.
Are there really injury talks?
Yeah, yeah. But he's 745 in the 3K as well. That he's the one Zach Stallings, we were talking to him and he was saying he's potentially injured. So who knows? But
you don't know. And then there's Alex Mayer, who is honestly, I put him in this maybe category, but I do think he'll scratch.
So do I. He's a 745 or 746 3K guy.
I think he's just a little better at the longer stuff. So I think the biggest, our biggest concern is since the Michigan State DMR isn't going to make it.
Yeah.
I think Morgan Beadlescombe is likely to do the 3K mile double.
I agree.
Which is trouble.
Yeah. He's ranked number 1 in the country in the mile. And see, he ran 352 in the race where Colin Cooper ran 350. Yeah. So I doubt he sees himself as, the favorite in the mile, even though he is ranked number 1, but he's right up there. If it came down to a race between, Basten, Mario Garcia Romo, and Morgan Beadlescombe, it kind of, I think, depends on the race. Any one of them could win. But Beadlescombe, I could definitely see him doing the mile 3K double. I definitely heard he wanted to do the distance medley relay and 3K double, but now that they haven't qualified in the DMR, I think he'll probably double in the mile and 3K. But who knows? He might see himself as a stronger 3K guy and see that 352 as kind of like a fluke. Not a fluke, but the perfect race to run quick.
So you really just don't know. And then if you assume Beadlescombe does it, I would say the next most concerning guy in this list is Brian Fay, just because I think his coach is going to want him to do the DMR because he have the best DMR in the country. But I mean, he's just so good, to the point where he could do the DMR mile double and win both.
Yeah, yeah.
He's that good.
Yeah.
So you just there's guys in this list that you just don't know. That's why I put them here. There's 5 guys. But either way, so taking it from that, even if all 5 guys scratch, which I'm assuming probably one of them will do it, maybe. Yeah. Maybe 2, but either way, I would say right now you are either the last one in, the second last one in, or the first one out. I would say you're either 15, 16, or 17.
Yeah, I agree.
If I had to like guess right now.
Yep.
And so we've devised plans with our coaches saying that like, oh, if you get bumped down by this much in the rankings, then we're going to go for a time.
A conference.
Yeah. So just tell them about what the plan is.
Yeah.
It's kind of hectic.
By the way, in that list, obviously Yard Nagus was in the potentially going to scratch in the mile category. And people might look at that and go, you're crazy. Obviously he's going to run the mile, but bear in mind, he's qualified as number 1 in the 3K and they have a very, very strong DMR. So running the DMR and running the 3K, you literally go out, he'll probably anchor the medley relay. And it's just 2 races. Whereas if you try and run the mile and DMR double, you run your mile prelim, you then have to run hard in the DMR on that same day. And then the next day you come back on probably pretty tired legs to run the mile final. So Yard Nagus, even though he's technically an American Olympian in the 1500, I wouldn't be surprised to see him not run the mile at nationals. And if for my sake, hopefully he doesn't. But yeah, anyway, conference coming up this weekend. So essentially the plan that has been devised is that if I drop down to number 25, we're going to have a crack. Me and Basten are going to run the mile at conference. And in the mile final, because we probably won't be in the same prelims based on how they kind of seed the prelims, we're going to get after it. And Basten is going to pace me through the K, maybe 1200.
Basically just as long as I can.
Yeah. And we're going to go hard and I'm going to have a crack. Because the way I see it, if I'm not going to qualify, like I would hate to not have a crack. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Even if I then run 3:59 at conference, like I want to have a go. I really do want to have a go. I would hate to not qualify and, think
and not try.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And in saying that, like obviously Jay and us, we've talked about it and it's kind of been like, if I get bumped down to number 25, that's when we're going to agree to really get after it in the conference mile final. But I'm kind of leaning towards going for it regardless. Like, just why not have a crack? Because I think the logic behind that is kind of like, it's another race in your legs. As Basten was saying, every race you do kind of takes a little bit out of you. But I think being ranked number 23, I need a lot to go my way for me to qualify based on scratches. And if we took that risk and didn't have a crack at conference and then I didn't qualify without, having a crack one last time, I would be thinking I could still be going to nationals. We could have had a crack at conference and I could have run something quick.
Yep.
So the way I see it is kind of like, why not give it a crack? If it doesn't work out and, I run 3:58, 3:59, like at least we've had a go. And at least I know that I've given it my all. Whereas if we don't do it, and then I don't qualify, then, I'll definitely regret not having a go. So that's kind of the thinking going into it.
Man, there's just a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
With our logic, the NCAA's logic. But the one thing that's worth noting is our conference meet isn't till Sunday and Monday. Yeah. And every other conference that like in my list that I considered relevant is racing on Friday and Saturday. So we are going to know what both of us basically ended the season ranking before we step on the track, which is such a huge advantage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think it would be an even bigger advantage. Like if I was ranked number 18 right now, we'd know, if you're ranked number 18, you're going to nationals based on scratches. There's always going to be at least a couple of people who scratch. I
would say top 20, like if you're 19 or higher, you're a lock.
Yeah. So if I was ranked like that, and then we saw all these conferences go and no one ran quicker, then we'd be safe. We wouldn't have to, have a crack at conference. But because I'm ranked 23rd, obviously I can get bumped down even further with conferences. as Basten was saying, we'll know about that. But I kind of think regardless, I want to get after it. And at the end of the day, like obviously racing takes a little bit out of you, but one more race now, like if I don't then qualify for nationals, one more race isn't going to hurt. I'll have literally a month or more off racing. So it's, yeah, I'm keen to kind of have a crack.
Well, and I mean, at the same time, like we're talking about like how racing is going to affect you a tiny bit. And I mean, that's when you're in the scenario of like being Mario Garcia Romo. Like we don't have that luxury. We're not number one in the rankings. Like, sorry, but we are looking at results every day thinking, shit, are we even going to make it?
Yeah.
So like, we don't have the luxury of saying, oh, like, I'm going to give my body a little rest at conference. Like, I mean, that's an ideal scenario, but I mean, that's not everyone gets that.
Yeah. Funnily enough, though, I feel like if we were in that Music City race, like we'd probably both be top 12 for sure. You know, like I'm pretty confident. I said it in my video. I feel like in that Arkansas race, like I was in 355 shape for sure, like without a doubt. And so are you. If you can run 356.1 closing in 26.9, like you're in better shape than that. And honestly, I hate making excuses like this, but I still feel like we haven't had the race yet for that to happen. And it could have been at Music City. You know, if we were in there, we could have run something pretty quick.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that if we were at Music City and I'm running in last place and kicking myself up to 5th and you're running in 4th the whole way and finishing there.
Yeah.
Like we're
running quick.
We're both running 355, 354. Like
for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. Like part of it's luck, and we set up Arkansas qualifier. And honestly, we're like both bitching about the Arkansas qualifier, but it's probably the second fastest mile race there has been all year.
Yeah.
Besides Music City. So,
honestly, probably one of the deepest in history. Right up there, at least. Probably top 5, top 10 for sure. Mile races in the NCAA, because 8 guys broke 4. Yeah. Like that's huge.
It's huge.
It's so easy to like think, you know, it's not that quick in the NCAA anymore. Like 356 isn't going to be a top 10 time anymore. But like for 8 guys to be going sub 4 in one race is pretty big.
It's massive.
So we did have that was a pretty deep field there. It was a good race. But I do feel a little bit like I felt last year. I ran 359. I ran 359 again. I got really, really lucky to qualify for nationals, but I always knew I could go a little bit quicker. And then in the national final, I ran 357, obviously, to come 4th. So I kind of proved that. And I hope I'm going to get the opportunity to run at nationals this year. But if not, then that's the way it goes. So that's kind of where we're at.
Part of me is so excited to be results watching this weekend. But the only absolute nightmare scenario is imagine like 7 guys pass both of us.
Yeah, I know.
And like all of a sudden I'm 24.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we both need a time.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
We're just going to hope that doesn't happen.
It won't happen. There's no way. Well, who knows?
Dude,
I haven't even considered that. Dude, but like, honestly, who knows anymore?
I literally just considered it because I was like, when I was looking at that list, I was like looking at the names. And I was like, imagine if all of them do this.
Yeah,
because then
it's not gonna happen.
Like, it's not gonna happen. But
God, who knows though?
You just don't know.
I think in that scenario, like honestly, we'd both pay someone at conference to like sacrifice themselves and take it through 800. I'll tuck in second. Basten tucks in third.
We just
have to go. That is awful though.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
What is going on? It's mad. That's
the first time I even thought of that. But then I was like looking over and I was like, oh my, imagine.
It's ridiculous. So who knows? I feel like we've kind of, you get where we're at. It's kind of a pretty hectic year. Basten should be in, but as we've seen, I thought I was well in, and now I'm kind of fighting for my life, trying to get a qualifier last minute. So
hopefully we're coming on a week from today celebrating that we're both in and previewing nationals for both of us, but you just don't know. So I mean, at least we've run 356 this year. We've both ran PBs. So
both around school records.
Yeah. So anyone saying that we're both like not peaking is just an absolute clown.
Did you see that?
Yeah, such an idiot. Like,
sorry for my roast back.
For people saying we're not getting better, I mean, man, like, just look at results and grow a brain.
Yeah.
We're obviously getting better. It's just the whole NCAA is as well. So
I felt a little bit bad replying to that comment because I said you're a lost cause to the guy. Just like I said I wouldn't usually reply to something like this because you're a lost cause. And
yeah,
he kind of replied like, what was the reason for the lost cause comment?
Yeah.
And it's because so many people are so quick to criticize what we're doing and how we're going. Like, and part of my logic behind, actually kind of coming back at that comment was like, we're nowhere near peaking. The guy said we're peaking right now, or I peaked too early. It's like, It's February. This time last year, I'd run 3:59 and 3:59 for 2-mile races. Yeah. This year, I've run 3:56 and 3:57. Like in races where, I had to do a lot of work. So yeah, I think we're definitely improving. Basten's run 3:56.1 in a race where he probably could have gone a lot quicker. Like, yeah, it's funny.
By the way, I woke up the next morning after my race with over 20 DMs from accounts that no longer exist. By the way, if you're someone that's in my DMs, man, I'm going to save you this. I'm not reading them. I don't give a damn about them. And literally I'm deleting them as soon as they're sent. So
what, people having a go at you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people are sending me mean DMs after that race and after my Instagram post. So if you're one of those guys doing that, man, like, just know I'm not reading them. So you're wasting your time typing them.
All right, we're back. Sorry for the pretty random cut there. Our camera actually resets every half an hour. I don't really know why, but every 30 minutes I have to, reset it and start filming again. So here we are. And with that, I think it's pretty good timing. We're just about finished. We've covered quite a lot. It's definitely been a bit of a longer episode than I was anticipating. I think we're over the hour mark, but it's been a good one.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Hopefully again, we're both coming back and next time we film and we're celebrating.
I hope so, man. I really hope so. Because obviously whatever happens. And, if I don't qualify for indoor, worse things can happen. I'll just prepare for outdoor and hope that I can qualify outdoor. But hopefully we're both going to indoor nationals. Going to Alabama would be pretty sick. And I think we're both deserving of being there. So
let's just put it like this. I think we're two guys that would bring home some hardware if we made it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Especially after last year. I mean, come on, we've got to be there. So yep. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Whatever platform you're on, Spotify or YouTube. We appreciate everyone watching and listening. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. We'll be back for another episode very soon. Yeah,
it's been fun.
Very fun. Thanks, everyone. See you in the next one.
Thank you.